All right, so today I want to show you the game of money. Game of money is something that we've been working on for several years at Mountain America, and it's really cool. We've had some really good responses, and it is something that we're proud of, and we want to make sure that everybody sees this as an option that they might be able to use in their curriculum, in their classroom. The game of money is sort of a choose-your-own-adventure game. Anybody ever played one of those choose-your-own-adventure games, right? Yeah, I was always the guy that died in the fiery pit or something, and then I have to go back to another page, right? We made this game because realistically, when we talk about students, they don't have a lot of life experience yet. They're not out paying bills, they're not out doing these things, but they kind of know what they want, or they think they know what they want. And so what we wanted to do was present them with what actually happens after you make those choices. What does that look like? And originally this was something that we worked with the Deseret News on way back in the day. And it was a tabloid piece of paper, a big print, newsprint thing. And we'd go in to schools and we would walk through this. And that was great for a while. It got really kind of awkward when I was standing there and we were going through the budget. And I was telling kids, your budget for gasoline is $100 a month. And I was like, yeah, we can't update the print, right? So we realized that the way things are going, the way things are changing, this needed to move from print to digital. And so that's what we've spent a few years doing. And I want to walk you through this so that you understand kind of the depth of options that we've given, and then where some of these numbers come from as well. So what we do is we'll go into classrooms and we will present this for you. This is not just something that we turn loose and say, go to town. We come in, we engage with students, we work with them and with you and kind of walk through this. And it can take an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how involved you want to be. Come on in, everybody. And it's a lot of fun. You get a variety of responses. As I'm sure you've seen, some classes are a little more serious and they take this with a little more intensity. And then there's some classes that want to set the high score, right? They just want to make all the bad decisions so they can see what happens if you make all the bad decisions, and that's fun and funny. But they actually do learn things along the way, which is kind of cool. So we are going to start off, and we're all going to do kind of exactly what I do when I go into a classroom so that you understand what that looks like. We're going to go through, and I am going to have each of you make decisions for our shared life as we step through the game of money. The beauty about that is you get to make your own decision. The bad part about that is everybody else gets to make a decision that's going to affect your life as well. So the shared Franken life that we have could be really good. It could be really bad. It might be exactly what you want, but chances are it's not, right? And the cool thing is you could go through and run it through yourself at the end, which is what we have students do. So this is set at age 28. Think about age 28, that's about 10 years out of high school, right? So people have had a chance to get their feet into a career, make some serious decisions about the direction they're heading with their life, and that's what we're going to do today. Now, I will not walk you through exactly how we do this in the classroom because y'all are a little bit more advanced than the 18-year-olds. You probably have a better idea of some of this stuff. But first thing that we ask them to do is think about what kind of students they are currently, because that's going to set up some of the other decisions for what they're able to do with their life 10 years down the road. So we're going to start with you here, sir. What kind of student are we going to be in this simulation? Are we going to be an excellent student, getting good grades, knows how to study, a good student who maybe is still doing pretty well, but it's a little bit more work, a so-so student who is passing but struggling a little bit, or a poor student who is not passing all of their classes?
Let's go with good.
Okay, we're going to be a good student. Now, once we get to that part, one of the things that we like to talk about here is a lot of people want to go right to, okay, what am I going to do for my career? How am I going to make money, right? But we want people to think more than that before they go and jump into making a career choice. We want them to think about the things that they're good at, the things that they're interested in, the kind of lifestyle things that they want because your career choices are going to have a huge impact on the rest of your life, obviously. And so it's easy for people to say, well, I just want to make the most amount of money, right? And I like to tell them about the air traffic controller. The air traffic controller makes an awful lot of money, doesn't have a whole lot in required schooling, but is also probably the most stressful job in the entire lot, right? These are the people that are responsible for making sure that the planes are in the sky when they're supposed to be in the sky and on the ground when they're supposed to be on the ground, and not any other way around. And so when we talk about that, you can see the light bulb go off for a lot of people. Yeah, maybe I don't want to just choose the career because I like the dollar figure, if that means I don't like stress and I'm going to be stressed out all the time, right? So we talk through these things, and we have them think about some things that they're good at, some skills. And I am not going to make you guys go through that right now, just in the interest of time. But we go through their skills that they have, some things that they're interested in, things that might help them think about different types of careers that would be helpful. And then those lifestyle needs. If you're somebody who really likes the outdoors, you like to get out and spend your weekends hunting, fishing, things like that, you probably don't want to pick a job that's going to require you to be more inside the city, busy on weekends, things like that, right? So we want kids to think about their overall lifestyle. And then we get into, okay, great, now we've thought about that stuff. What are you going to do for your job? And we have them pick a career. Now the first thing, and we're going to move back one row here, you get to choose our desired level of education. Now, because we are a good student, we have a few options that are grayed out for us, right? I like to tell them, if you want to be a brain surgeon, but you're not passing your classes right now, you don't get to jump right into that, right? You're going to have to work on some things before you can get there. And so because we're a good student, we have limited some of our selections. You get to decide for us which section we want to look in for our future career.
Students are looking for a vocational training program.
Okay. All right. What that's going to pull up is a menu of choices that you're going to choose from. Now, where do these numbers come from? I spent a lot of time looking for all of these numbers online, and I tried to get them more or less within the Utah general area. Certainly Salt Lake, Utah County, Davis County. These numbers are all going to be pretty accurate along the way. This particular set of information comes from the Utah Jobs Database, where we went and we pulled all of those numbers. We pulled a selection of different career paths, and we went and looked at the range of salaries for people in Utah with those. And we said, okay, if I'm 28, what percentile do I think I'm going to fall in that range? And that's what these numbers are. Now, these are the gross annual salary as reported in that Utah Jobs Database for these different jobs. So
this is not starting salary, this is average salary?
This is a salary for somebody in about the 25th to 35th percentile of the range of salaries reported in Utah. So you figure at 28, you're probably early on in your career. Obviously, depending on the company you're at, some of the other things, that salary can range wildly. But that's where we've chosen this, is based on the actual reported salary range in Utah. Okay, how about I'll have you choose from the list here. We'll scroll down which job we're going to choose today. So we've got our air conditioning installer, a dental assistant, a firefighter, hairstylist, insurance appraiser, manicurist, massage therapist, nursing assistant, paramedic, and vocational nurse.
Let's go with, we're going to be a firefighter.
All right. So we've got our firefighter. Now we get to make the next big decision, which I guarantee is one of the most controversial ones that I go through in every class. At age 28, statistically speaking, about half of the US population has been married at least once. I've put that in at least once. Which isn't to say at age 28, if you're not married, that you don't plan to get married, don't want to get married, just that you're not married at age 28 yet. But we're going to make a decision. At age 28, would we like to be married in this simulation?
You know, I'm following up on what they were talking. She said there are 4 things they want to incorporate now in financial literacy. Graduate from high school, then are these required? Then you got to get married. There was something with rings, right?
Right. I think it was get a job, right?
You got to get a job.
Getting married.
Okay, what was first? Job?
Graduate high school is what I heard. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
So we're graduating from high school.
Yep.
We've got our job.
Yep.
Now we're on number 3.
Right.
Which you've already incorporated. So the question is, what's the timing? Is it 28? Is it 30? Is it 15 when I got pregnant?
Right. Right. Before you, right. That's the ideal, right?
Yeah, okay, we'll be married by 28.
All right, sounds
We're
good.
in Utah, we're pushing this. I'm not sure. Hey, did they put an age requirement on that 4 pillars?
I don't think so, and that seems like that might be that's a big step right there, yeah.
Yeah.
It says to get out of poverty by your mid-30s. You want to follow these.
So if you're gonna get out of poverty,
Okay.
I guess you gotta get married before you have to do all those 4 things before you're out of poverty.
Apparently that's what we're told now, yeah.
So having kids
So-
helps you get out of poverty?
That seems like an open question.
And did they tell you how many kids? Did they tell us how many?
So that is going to be one of our next choices, actually. Let's do this. We're going to
I didn't
come.
mean to make it too complicated.
No, you're good, because this is exactly what we do in class, right? We have these conversations around, do I want to be married? Do we want? Next big question that we're going to come over to you, is do we want our spouse to be employed full-time, or are we going to have a stay-at-home spouse? All right, we're going to have an employed spouse.
Oh, wait a minute.
Now,
What happened to, don't we have some guidelines on should our partners stay home and take care of our kids?
Let's stay focused.
Today
so here's the beauty of this, right? As we each go through this, we would maybe make different choices than the class would. We've made these choices, right? And we get to say our partner's going to be employed. However, if we say that you get to choose what your partner's going to do, everybody chooses the brain surgeon. Because that's super easy. That makes the rest of the game fun, right? I don't have to make any hard decisions. We don't let you do that. We let the game choose what your spouse is going to do. You married for love, not for money. And maybe you'll get both, but we're going to find out. You married an operating engineer. That is a high school degree or equivalent. They are making $47,162 gross dollars per year. So now we know that we are a firefighter married to an engineer. We are making, I think it was 39,000-ish, and our spouse is making 47,000-ish. Now the next big question for you is, at age 28, do we want to have children yet?
Yes.
We do. All right. And how many children do you think we have? We do put a cap on this. You'd be surprised how many people think they can really push this boundary, but
3.
3. All right.
At 28?
At 28.
Oh, let's go with 1.
Go ahead. All right. So we are married. We have 1 child. Our pre-tax income is $86,164. We divide that by 12. We get the princely sum of $7,180 to make our life decisions. But this is gross income, right? Which means everybody's favorite subject, taxes. I think we all know the tax code is a little more complicated than this, but we did a lot of math. And we arrived at some reasonable assumptions about a percentage that we can apply so that we can get somewhere close to what people are going to see come out of their paycheck for things like state, federal, Medicare, all that good stuff, right? Social Security. So, based on our rate here, what do you think our tax percentage is going to be for our married couple?
25%.
Let's see, 25%. Ooh, not quite. Feels like the price is right, doesn't it? $1. All right. So with our taxes, that might be a touch small to read up there right now. With our taxes, normally it'd be about $1,500 coming out, but we have a child. We get a child tax credit. Now here's the cool thing. This is all digital. We can update this stuff, right? There may be changes to the child tax credit coming soon. I just go in and update that. I don't have a stack of 50,000 pieces of paper that have the wrong number. So our hope is to be able to keep this stuff updated as things change so that it continues to reflect reality. So our monthly tax total is $1,186 coming out of the top, which leaves us with just a smidge under $6,000 that we're going to use to make all the rest of our financial decisions. Who feels good about that right now? Couple people, yeah, about half. Who's like, there's no way in the world that that's going to cover our needs? Nobody's broken yet. I'm glad to hear it. Okay, so let's make some other big decisions here. First off, we made one already. We had a child, and we have a spouse that works full-time, so we're going to have to pay some child care. Anybody paying child care right now? How much?
Well, I have twins, so there's two, so 17, 15.
Okay.
$1,800.
$1,800.
A month? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
How old are they?
4.5.
4.5, 18, right? So when I asked my coworkers who had kids in, what was the range that they were paying, I was shocked first off. The low end was, about $700 a month for one kid. The high end was about $2,000 a month for one kid, depending on where you lived, what you were going for. So we have $800 per month for your first child, plus an additional $500 for each child after that. This is an eye-opener for a lot of students, right? Because this really calls into question for a lot of them, okay, do I really want to have the 4 kids and a spouse that works? Or do I need to rethink that plan, right? Maybe this idea of what I thought life is going to look like is already starting to look a little different. So we go through that. We've got our one child, so we're paying $800 per month. Next big question, I'll let you answer here since we missed you earlier. Do we want pets?
I'll say no. I have pets, but no.
Okay.
No,
In your heart of heart, we want pets in the future. One thing that we do, I like to tell a story about my cat, Otis. Otis is my free cat. We got Otis. He was a feral. In fact, another teacher at a school in South Jordan was taking care of a feral colony that was kind of outside the school, and she was adopting out the kittens. And we got him, and he was free. And 9 months later, he was drooling a lot. And so I took him into the vet, and they're like, yeah, he's got a feral dental condition thing. We need to rip all his teeth out. That's going to be $1,400. So I like to tell the kids about the free pets, right? There are no free pets. They all cost money. And so if you do have pets, we have to budget a little bit more than you think you're going to need for just food and things, because sometimes you take them in and then you have to get their teeth ripped out, which is not as much fun as you might imagine. Okay, so our next question, we're gonna go back here to you. Where do we want to live? And right now we've got our 2 options. We're going to rent an apartment or we're going to buy a house. We have 2 people, 1 child, 2 adults, 1 child, 0 pets.
And they're already into their career?
They are. They're 28. Yep. All right. We're going to try to buy a house. Where do these numbers come from? Well, I went looking on Zillow. I looked at a bunch of different areas. I looked at different size houses. I found what looked like a reasonable average at the time for a house in this general vicinity. I went to Mountain America's website. I found a mortgage calculator. I plugged those numbers in. I assumed we'd actually have 20% down on a house. It all spit all that great stuff out. And so we have our house that we can buy for the median price there, and then what the mortgage looks like just for our payment and interest. So, what size house do you think we want to buy here?
You want me to choose or you want me?
Yep, I'll let you choose this one.
Versus 2-bedroom. That's all I need.
2-bedroom, all right. So that'll be $1,800 $80 a month. Now, of course, we're going to have to pay for other things too, right? Yes?
How up to date are the interest rates that you had on that?
So I just checked. I think that this was done at 6.35%. And when I looked yesterday, the rate we had posted was 6.475. So it's probably about $100 more payment today, but it fluctuates all the time. We may at one point actually peg it to the online rate that we have, but that gets a little bit more complicated. I should give a plug here for our designer. So we came up with all this. I did all the research for the numbers and stuff, right? And our designer, bless his heart, took it upon himself as a project to build this. It took him 14,000 lines of code to build this into what it is. And so I didn't want to put that on his plate to say, yeah, figure out how to make it go to our website and pull that number too, but that is coming. So yeah, it is darn close. So we've got utilities we got to pay for. If we were renting, we'd have to pay pet rent, right? Most places, if you're in an apartment, they're going to charge you $50 a month just to have a pet. And then we also talk about insurance, which is an important topic. Give a few stories about that along the way, including living next door to a townhouse that burned down, and I had to run from a burning house. All right, next big question. Now this is, we're going to go here to you. This is our method of transportation. So we get to choose. We have a pretty good public transit system in this area, so we could choose just to ride public transit for $85 a month, enjoy our front runner, our tracks, our buses, or we could choose a new vehicle or a used vehicle.
Do used.
All right. And then you're going to get to choose which style of vehicle. Originally, I had chosen actual vehicles, and then I realized a lot of people don't know the difference between all these different things, myself included. So we just kind of did a general average. Again, where do the numbers come from? I went to CarMax. I went to some other car sales sites. I started looking at what cars were actually being listed for in the area. I went and found a pretty good average. I plugged it into our calculator for the current rate for an auto loan. And that's where I got the numbers, right? So all of these numbers that you see are real life, what you could expect to run into if you're a 28-year-old in Salt Lake County, Utah County, Davis County, general kind of that area today. What kind of vehicle do you think we'd like here for our 2 adults and 1 child? We've got our sports cars, our convertible, a compact, mid-size sedan, full-size sedan, small SUV, big old SUV, a minivan if we really want to get splashy. We've got a truck, an extended cab truck, or a couple of electric vehicles.
Let's do mid-size.
All right, mid-size sedan. Cool, so we're going to look at $283 per month for that. Now that's our vehicle. We have our partner, our spouse, who is a full-time worker as well. You get to choose. What are they going to take?
Oh, they're also used.
All right.
They don't get a new car.
No, I see we're in a room full of sensible people here. You'd be amazed, or not, how many people who are younger than that will choose new cars for everyone and the most expensive new car that they can find. All right, and what vehicle do you think they would like? Again, we got to
Compact car is okay.
go to the compact. All right.
Convenient car.
That's right. Cool, so we've got a couple of car payments, but in addition to that, of course, we're going to have to pay for gas. Now, gas, a little bit different depending on the vehicle you drive. So we've got fuel multipliers in here for things like your big trucks, and we've got charging costs for your electric vehicles rather than gas costs. Because we've got some reasonable vehicles here, our compact uses a little bit less gas. We give them a break. The number of miles driven, again, comes from state data on what the average Utahn drives per month. And we've just multiplied that, in this case, by $4 per gallon. That's one of those that we could change in the future again, right? But that seems to be a reasonable guess right now. So we're spending $993 per month on our car payments. our fuel and charging, and our auto insurance. I do like to tell students about my son. My son is a terrible driver. When he turned 16, I think it took all of about 2 days before we got the first call that said, I ran into the back of a car, but it wasn't too bad, so they just said, don't do it again, and we left. Okay? That was not a good omen. He since got some speeding tickets, got a few rear-ending situations, right? Because of that, his car insurance went way up. And he had to pay for that. He was on our policy. But when he left, he's now 29. When he left home and got his own policy, it was $2,400 every 6 months just for him. One car.
How old was he when he left?
That was three years ago.
26.
Yep, so 26. And he quickly learned that he should probably be a better driver. I'm not sure if he's really gotten there, but he hasn't crashed in anything as far as I know, so that's good. But I do tell them, like, there's a reason you want to be a defensive driver. It's going to cost you a lot of money if you're not, right? All right, now there's some boring stuff that we got to pay for. Things like food, right? As much as we love to go and do all the other fun stuff, we do have to eat. Groceries can range all over the map. We tell people about $500 per month for a couple is a reasonable number. And then we add some in per child. So for the 3 of us, we're looking at $625. We've got to put clothes on ourselves, and we know with kids, right, they're always growing out of shoes, they're always growing out of clothes. We do make them spend $50 per adult and $35 per child per month, and that's an average, right? When you go back to school, you're probably going to spend a little bit more, but then there's some people who really like nice clothes or really like a lot of clothes. So we give people the option of, do they want to spend more? We're going to come across the aisle here. Do we want to add anything more to our clothing budget? No? All right. I know, right? So amazingly, when we have this conversation, a lot of people are like, yeah, I go to the DI all the time, or I go to the thrift stores and get stuff. And that sparks a pretty good conversation, too, amongst a lot of them. So I'm impressed with how many of the students do say, yeah, I like to go thrifting and get my stuff there. So we're looking at $135 a month. We've got to pay for our cell phone, our internet. Those things are pretty hard to get around these days. So we've got some pricing baked in based on national averages there. $225 total. Then we talk about healthcare and how, yeah, we're going to be lucky and we're going to have decent healthcare provided through one of our employers. We still have to pay a premium, and we're still going to have to pay some things out of pocket, right? There's costs that go into that. However, if we didn't have this, it can be really expensive. So when I was, well, my daughter was 3. She's now about to turn 13 in 2 weeks. So about 10 years ago, on Halloween, she woke up with a fever. And it was 106-degree fever. That's legit, right? That's not just to give them some Tylenol and hope they get better. So we went in morning of Halloween to her pediatrician, and her pediatrician kind of looked her over and said, yeah, get her in the car. You're going to drive straight to Primary Children's. Don't stop at home. Don't stop at another hospital. They're the only ones who are going to have a surgeon who can take care of this today. I think she's got a burst appendix. So I drove like my son would drive from Draper to Primary Children's. We got in, and all the nurses were dressed in Halloween costumes, and it was kind of a surreal, right? When Batman takes your kid back to the room, that's a little weird. And by that night, they had done surgery. They removed her burst appendix, sucked all the bad stuff out that they were supposed to, and we said, yeah, it's like, how long are we going to be here for recovery? right? And they said, well, it's usually about 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, okay, right? We hadn't planned on that. But thankfully, both my wife and I were able to stay there, except that it wasn't 2 weeks. She had multiple complications. And Halloween turned into Thanksgiving. And we didn't leave until a little after Thanksgiving. And then we got the bills. How much do you think a month-long stay in Primary Children's Medical Center adds up to be? What did I hear, 30,000?
At least
A million,
100K.
100K, 70,000.
470.
$125,000 later, we didn't have to pay that, thankfully, right? We had insurance. And so that's why insurance is really important. And I really like to impress upon that because a lot of people are like, well, I'm young, right? I don't have problems. My daughter was 3. There was nothing we could have done. We couldn't have changed anything. We couldn't have foreseen it. And we certainly didn't have $125K sitting around with nothing better to do. So I'm really glad for insurance, and I really know that that story strikes a chord with them because it's something that you realize this isn't all in your control, right? There's things that happen. You need to be prepared for the risks.
Did those numbers get updated too?
Boy, that's a tough one to keep up, right? Yeah. Again, we can update all these easily. So as things change, we'll be able to go and update those. We're not going to be able to say every month update them because things go up and down, right? But yeah, definitely as things change, we do. All right, the next question is if we're a smoker or vapor, because that could affect our health care. And you get to answer that question for us. Are we somebody who smokes or vapes?
I say no.
Okay. Well, that's a wise financial decision as well as a good health choice. So we don't have any additional health care costs because we're running up the smoking and vaping. Which brings us to the fun stuff, right? All the discretionary things. So we're going to start over here and we're going to say, what do we got for entertainment? Our cable. Now remember, we're already paying for the internet, so that's covered. We can do streaming services only if that's what we choose, but you get to decide what we might want to do for entertainment.
Are there just those 4 you're not?
Yeah, you've got none, basic cable, mid-tier, and top-tier cable.
Mid-tier.
Okay. Got mid-tier cable. We got some live channels. We're watching some of the sporting events. I always like to warn people, especially with cable bills, right? They'll tell you one price, you'll get the bill, and you're like, well, where did the second half of that bill come from, right? Taxes, fees, all that stuff. Good question to always ask. What's my actual bill going to be? Right? They can tell you that with all the taxes and fees included. And then we get to pick streaming services. So in the back there, do you want us to have any streaming services?
No.
Nada.
YouTube's free, that's fine.
All right. Going with the free YouTube. We've got ourselves some mid-tier cable, so $130 per month. Now this is one of the, again, more controversial topics, right? Going out to eat. So we've got 2 categories here. We've got our going out to fast food, our Taco Bells, McDonald's, Wendy's sort of things, right? And we've got our sit-down meals, which are not Ruth's Chris, not fancy sushi. It's more like Applebee's, right? We're 28, but this is somewhere where you sit down, you order from a menu, they bring you the food, maybe you get a soda, that sort of thing. You back here, you get to choose for us our number of times that we're going to do fast food meals per month.
Let's go with 8.
Okay. Got 8 fast food meals per month. Now, if you think about that, that's not out of line. A lot of people go out for lunch during the week with, work and stuff. They might want to go out after a hard day as well. And how many sit-down meals per month do you think that we're going to do?
Just 2.
All right. So every other week, we're going to splurge a little bit, go to the Applebee's. So we've got $344 per month in going out to eat costs. That's actually pretty reasonable. I don't know about you, I talk to a lot of people as a financial coach. There's people spending a lot more than that on the regular, right? All right, so the next one that we run into is general shopping. Budgets a lot of times have very specific categories. And then you go, well, I want a new lamp. What the heck budget category does that fall in, right? Or I need to buy a Halloween costume. I don't know. So we just have a general shopping baked in to cover that stuff. We've got $150 per month for those purchases. But again, there's some people that like to spend a lot more, right? There's some people are on a very, very personal first name basis with their Amazon delivery driver, and those people are going to spend more than $150 per month. So in the back here, you get to decide, do we want to spend anything more than our $150 per month on general shopping?
6 kids, so that seems so low to me.
Yeah, let's be honest. What are you feeling?
I feel like it would be a little bit higher.
Okay. $100 higher,
We only have one kid.
150.
I guess you have 1 kid. Oh, make it 200.
All right.
That's above the
So that's-
150.
Yep. So we got $350 a month on average. Now remember, average, right? So the next one we have are gifts. When does Christmas happen?
Can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Do you, in your walking through students, do they know sort of some of the categories? Like that last one, I thought to ask, does that include services? Does that include getting nails done?
Right, and so that can be a discussion, yeah. It can include a lot of different things. Different things, and we like to talk about, right? Different things are important to different people. And so you have to make sure you're prioritizing, of course, the things that are important to you. And we can't possibly call that out for everybody,
No, I just
but
wanted to be
absolutely.
about that. Like, I just said no to cable if I knew streaming was the next choice, because I would have said no cable.
Okay, right,
Just kind of a sense of what's in,
Right.
what's coming up.
right. This choice doesn't preclude this choice, yep.
Questions about children, how many do I want, or how many am I going to have at 28? That's a different story.
Right, yes.
Is there a back button?
There is, yep. Usually, and in some of them, you can't see it on this one. It's behind, it ends up behind this here. Well, one thing that we do try to, it's easy to go along the way and go back and make decisions differently. We like to kind of go through because we want you to think, well, here's the lifestyle I want.
Yeah.
And then you see what that is, right? And then you realize that some of the choices you made early on were different than you would make again. Then you go through again, right, and make different choices. But it's not necessarily, there's a reason why we don't have a running total, right? Because for a lot of people, that quite honestly just isn't how they work. They make the decision and then they figure out how much it costs later and they're trying to work backwards from that. Very few people, the numbers will show us, are really good at sticking to their budget and making those wise choices. So we want it to be as real as possible in like, what's the lifestyle you want? Now let's see what that does and how that might make you make different decisions if you went back. So gifts. You want to spend anything on, save anything for gifts over the year?
Well,
So this is a monthly, I should say.
I try to shop cheaply, but I realize that parents like to kind of splurge on their children a little bit. But I just did a ton of birthdays and things. I would say that if you want to give good gifts, I feel like $100 you could do it if you were trying to be cheap, but also.
Oop, come back. Yep, so this will cover, I mean, right, you got your kid's birthday, you've got Christmas, you've got anniversaries. At 28, a lot of people know people getting married, right? And so they got to buy wedding gifts for other people, that kind of thing. So it adds up. I think $100 per month is a fine number to put in there. All right, the next one, we're going to come back up front. You get to decide charitable contributions. Now, this is our religious, service, political, love the animals, GoFundMes, all of those wonderful things that we might give some charitable donations to. The average in the U.S. is about 4% of income. goes toward charitable donations. You get to decide for us between 0 and 20% of income what we might want to allocate.
So I'll say 10%.
Fair enough. And again, that's a great point, right? In Utah, this is a very common thing that you hear. But for a lot of people who aren't actually paying that out, they don't know what that looks like. And so this is also an eye-opener for them when they see what that number is and how that might affect some of the other decisions that they need to make. So for us, that's $599 per month. Just a few more here, and then we're going to see how we did. So we've got our emergency savings. We do force people to save at least $50 a month for emergencies. I would recommend more than that. I do tell them about my son, the terrible driver, and the last time he drove my car, which will be the last time he drives my car, and how it ended up costing me about $2,000 in new tires and rims because he ran over a piece of firewood at 60 miles an hour. That was unexpected. And so it's good to have money for emergencies. Do we want to save anything more for emergencies? 150 more, all right. Now, we are homeowners. When do you always need your air conditioner looked at? As soon as it hits about 98 degrees, right, for the first time. You turn it on, it does not turn on. Likewise with your furnace, when it gets to be about 42, you turn it on and it doesn't work. So we have some money set aside for that. We're forcing people to save $200 per month for that. Vehicle maintenance, used cars generally have a little bit more maintenance, so we make them save $100 for that. $33 per month if they had a new vehicle. So we're at $550 a month on our various savings buckets there. And then our last decision is travel. Do we want to travel? So you get to decide for us whether we want to be local explorers enjoying the natural beauty of our state and national parks, domestic adventurers traveling the US, or world travelers maybe going to some other countries.
Let's do, we're going to be a local explorer.
All right.
One trip average 1 week.
Sounds good. So we're going to go do some camping. We're going to enjoy, maybe go to Moab. All right. Student loans. For those who did not get scholarships, who did not work through college, they're going to have to pay back more. Now for our particular program, we owed about $26,000 at a 6.87% interest rate, which was the going rate for student loans when we last looked at this. So we're going to be paying $333 a month. Our spouse, on the other hand, did not require a degree, so they don't have student loans. So that's nice. We saved there. And then the last thing is, we've made all these decisions. We got to choose all of these things, right? But as you and I know, life doesn't always happen that way. You don't always get to choose when your son runs over a piece of firewood. So we're going to let the game choose 3 things that happen to us, good or bad. The first one, rats. Well, mice. We've got to hire a pest control company for $45 a month. The next one is a friend is getting married and we start saving $200 a month for the trip to go to their wedding. And then lastly, let's see if we get some good luck. Nope, the cost of our health insurance premium increases by $15 per month.
Are there any positives on that list?
There are, yeah. There's things like you get a raise, you fix the leak in your toilet so your water bill goes down. There's some other good ones too, yeah. So I think the highest one gets you an extra 5% income. Somebody gets a new job, that kind of thing. So yeah, we did get the bad luck at the draw. All right, so we're going to find out how we did. Show of hands, who thinks we've got some extra money left over? Who thinks we're maybe just a little bit broke? Who thinks we're way broke? Most of us think we're way broke. Okay. Now remember, our monthly income gross, $7,180. Our expenses, $6,492. Taxes, $1,785. We are trying to save some money, right? $225 for that. We still have to pay our student loans. Our wild cards didn't help, leaving us $1,915 in the hole. This is a room full of financial education teachers, people. Come on. No. It's interesting, though, isn't it? As you make these decisions, first off, sometimes you don't realize what the average is for some of these costs, right? Things have changed a lot since some of us were 28 and making these decisions on our own, too. And so it's interesting to see what these students are going out and possibly experiencing with real prices, making these real decisions in the world. So this is a great way to get them involved, have those conversations, and let them understand that maybe some of the things that they thought they were going to do, they may not want to be doing as soon as they thought, or they may just want to look at a whole lot of decisions that they didn't realize they were going to probably be making, right? There's more to life than maybe they thought they were going to have to decide. And so we'll continue to add these numbers up and see if we need to make changes along the way. But we love to come in and speak to your classes, run through these, get their take, and then turn them loose and let them make all the decisions themselves and see what that looks like. And I tell them, first time you go through it like you want your life to be. Before you go and sign up for that college program, right, and realize junior year that maybe you didn't want to go down that path, but you still have 2 years worth of loans. Or maybe look at a different vocation than you were thinking because the one that you want maybe doesn't pay what you thought it did. Make those decisions. Any questions? I've got a couple of minutes here anyway. Yeah?
Have you run this simulation in high school classes?
Yes. We've done almost 100 classes in the past 8 months.
I could see you doing this as a general, or breaking out into groups of 2s, groups of 3s, individually. What works best for you?
So typically what we've done is kind of how we did it here, where we make everybody make a decision, right? Because then they're all engaged, they're all kind of seeing what other people are thinking too. And then they come to, after they're done with that, then they come together, make their own decisions and share, okay, where did you end up, right? And some of them end up much more negative than this because they're trying to be fun, right? And some of them are like, hey, I actually have a little bit of money left over. We talk about, well, what would you do if you had a little money left over, right? Which we don't talk about investing in this. That's a great way to talk about it, so.
I was going to
Yeah.
ask if there was retirement savings.
Yeah, we don't have that
I was
mentioned.
gonna ask why retirement wasn't in it.
Yeah, so the reason we don't have it in there is just because there's different ways to do that. And it's a great conversation for us to have as far as if you do have money left over, what could you do with it, right? So, but yeah, it gets into a whole different 401k, IRA sort of
How
thing.
many of you come out to the classroom?
You just one of us. Yeah. I mean, we have 4 people on our team, and then we have branch managers trained in some of our more far-flung areas. If you're out further than Davis County, Utah County, Salt Lake County area. But yeah, usually one of us comes out and we'll do it for as many classes as you have.
Oh, really? So if we have 4 classes in a day, you'll stay the whole day?
We'll do the whole thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Is the website public so we can do it?
It is public. We prefer if we can do the walkthrough with you. We like to keep track of A, how it's landing with people so that we can see if we need to update anything, and B, whether it's making a difference in the community.
What's the youngest classroom that you've done this in?
Middle school. I think we've done, we've had some 7th or 8th grade. This is my boss, Holly, by the way, back here. Yeah.
About how long does the walkthrough take?
About an hour. We can stretch it a little bit longer. Some classes are, hour and a half classes, hour and 20-minute classes. So we shoot for about that hour, but we can. We can absolutely try. Yes.
Because of the data privacy laws, the students don't have to log in to do this and give them.
Correct. Yep. There's no login. There's nothing they have to sign up for. It's just a link. Yep.
So the students can we have Chromebooks in the class. So the students can log into this and follow along with you as we're doing this?
Correct. What we have found is when you have them start and go along with us, inevitably 90% of them are way ahead, right? They're done in 2 minutes because they've clicked all the buttons and then they're bored and they're not sure what to do next, right? So what we do is a walkthrough and then turn them loose on it, and that keeps them more engaged. Great questions.
I'll just add that we do have other workshops that complement your strands. And so you mentioned investing. We have a really great workshop that's called Investing for Everyone that's very basic introduction to that. We have a great one that explains credit, budgeting, debt, and scams, how to prevent being a victim of a scam. So those workshops are also available, just like this one.
Yeah.
And your contact cards?
Yep, so I've got cards right here. You're welcome to take one of those. On our website at the top here, you've got education, and you can go to classes and webinars, and you can see down here, host a seminar, you can see all of the different options that we have. And you can just shoot Holly an email right from here. Her email's right up at the top there. And
Not all of these are geared for high school students.
some of them are a little bit more basic than your high school's going to get into, right? But we've got a variety, and you're welcome. I mean, we're happy to talk through any of these. The ones that we've highlighted, we've got our board upstairs. There's the 5 that touch the strands specifically enough that we felt like we wanted to highlight those for you. Great. Well, thank you so much for coming out. Really appreciate it.